Hello, Talk Evolve learners. I am your host, Sophia. Today, we are not going to memorize boring grammar rules. Instead, we are going to learn how native speakers actually talk. We are diving into the famous book, Speak English Like an American by Jald. I will teach you 50 powerful phrases by telling you the exact story of the Johnson family, Bob, his wife Susan, and their kids, Ted and Nicole. Let's begin. Our story starts with Bob. Bob works at a furniture store. He has been working there for years, but one day his boss, Peter, calls him into the office and gives him some terrible news. Peter decided to give Bob the axe. What does this mean? It doesn't mean a real axe. To give someone the axe means to fire someone from their job abruptly. It's a very common American idiom. For instance, you could say, the company was losing money, so they gave 50 employees the axe. Listen to this situation. If you keep arriving late to the office, the manager will give you the axe. Or you might hear someone say, I am so stressed. I heard they are giving people the axe today. Why did Peter fire Bob? Because Peter thought Bob was dead wood. Dead wood refers to employees who are useless, lazy, or no longer add any value to a company. Just like dead wood on a tree does nothing but take up space. Let's look at it in a sentence. The new CEO fired all the dead wood to save the business. Another example, he spends all day on his phone. He is just dead wood in our team. Or a manager might say, if you don't learn new skills, you will become dead wood. When Bob heard this, he was shocked, but he didn't lose his temper. To lose your temper means to suddenly become very angry and start shouting. You lose control of your emotions. For example, when the children broke the TV, their mother lost her temper. Or as a piece of advice, please try not to lose your temper during the meeting. Here is another way to use it. I am sorry I lost my temper yesterday. I was just very tired. Bob went straight home. He needed to talk it over with his wife, Susan. To talk over means to discuss a problem or a situation deeply with someone before making a decision. Listen to how we use it. I can't sign this contract right now. I need to talk it over with my lawyer. Another common situation. Whenever I am confused, I talk things over with my best friend. Or simply, let's sit down and talk over our travel plans. When Bob told Susan he lost his job, she didn't cry. She said, there is no point in crying. No point in means there is absolutely no reason or benefit to doing something. It is a waste of time. For instance, there is no point in worrying about the past. Another example, there's no point in waiting for him. He is not coming. Or in a classroom setting, there is no point in studying grammar if you never practice speaking. Instead of crying, Susan made up her mind. She decided to start her own business. To make up your mind means to make a final, firm decision after thinking about it deeply. Let's use it in a sentence. I have made up my mind. I am moving to London. Or you could tell a friend, take your time, but please make up your mind by tomorrow. Listen to this situation. He can't make up his mind between buying a car or a motorcycle. Susan is very intelligent. In fact, she is as sharp as a tack. A tack is a small, sharp pin. We use this phrase to describe a person who is extremely smart, quick-thinking, and clever. For example, you don't need to explain it twice to him. He is as sharp as a tack. Another way to say it, even at 90 years old, my grandfather's brain is as sharp as a tack. Or simply, she solved that complex math puzzle in seconds. She's sharp as a tack. Susan decides to start a cookie business. For her, baking delicious chocolate cookies is a piece of cake. This phrase means something is incredibly easy to do. It requires almost no effort. For instance, don't worry about the English test. It will be a piece of cake. Another situation. Fixing this computer was a piece of cake for the engineer. Listen to how we use it. I thought driving would be hard, but it's a piece of cake. Susan is confident that her cookies will sell like hotcakes. This means that a product will be bought by people very quickly and in large quantities because it is so popular. Let's look at it in a sentence. The new iPhone is selling like hotcakes. Another example, tickets for the music concert sold like hotcakes. Or in business, if we lower the price, these shoes will sell like hotcakes. To start the business, they need money and ingredients. Susan tells Bob, "Let's get the ball rolling." This phrase means to start an activity, to begin a project, or to take the very first step to make something happen. For example, "We have a lot of work today, so let's get the ball rolling." Listen to this situation. "I will buy the paint to get the ball rolling on our house renovation," or to start a meeting. "Everyone is here. Let's get the ball rolling with the first presentation." So, Bob and Susan have the perfect plan. They are ready to get the ball rolling and bake some delicious cookies. But running a business and managing a family at the same time is never easy. Let's see what happens to their son Ted next. And learn the exact phrases native speakers use when life gets a little out of control. Before buying the ingredients for the cookies, Bob sits at the kitchen table to crunch numbers. What does this mean? Crunching numbers means to do a lot of mathematical calculations, especially to look at a budget or financial situation. For instance, you could say, "The accountant is crunching numbers to see if we can buy a new house." Here is another situation. Before you start a business, you must sit down and crunch the numbers. Or simply, "I hate crunching numbers. I am very bad at math." After doing the math, Bob realizes that for the first few weeks, their new business will be in the red. This is a very common business idiom. If a company is in the red, it means it is losing money. It is spending more than it is making. Listen to how we use it. Because of the pandemic, many restaurants were in the red. Another example, if we don't increase our sales, our company will stay in the red. Or you might read in the news, "The airline has been in the red for 3 years in a row." But Susan is confident. She promises Bob that soon their cookie business will be in the black. This is the exact opposite of being in the red. In the black means the business is making a profit and is financially healthy. For example, after months of hard work, Susan's bakery is finally in the black. You can also use it like this. The CEO promised the investors that the company would be in the black by December. Or, "It feels great to look at the bank account and see we are in the black." To make the business successful, everyone in the family needs to help. Bob tells his teenage son Ted that he must pull his weight. To pull your weight means to do your fair share of the work in a team or family. You cannot let others do everything. Let's look at it in a sentence. If you want to live in this house, you have to pull your weight and clean your room. Or in an office setting, the manager fired John because he wasn't pulling his weight on the project. Another example, when everyone pulls their weight, the team always wins. But Ted doesn't want to help bake cookies. Ted loves to slack off. To slack off means to be lazy and avoid doing your work or duties. You waste time when you should be busy. For instance, Ted slacked off all weekend instead of doing his homework. Listen to this advice. If you slack off at the gym, you will never build muscle. Or a boss might say, "I am watching you, so please do not slack off today." One morning, Ted doesn't want to go to school or help his mother, so he lies and says he is feeling under the weather. If you feel under the weather, you feel slightly sick or unwell. It's not a serious illness, just a mild cold or tiredness. You could call your boss and say, "I won't come to the office today. I am feeling a bit under the weather." Or to a friend, "You look under the weather. You should drink some hot tea." Another example, she was feeling under the weather, so she slept all afternoon. Later that week, Ted feels completely fine, but he decides to cut class. To cut class means to intentionally miss a school lesson or lecture without a valid excuse. You skip school to go have fun. For example, Ted cut his chemistry class to go to the mall with his friends. A warning could be, if you cut class too many times, the principal will call your parents. Or someone talking about the past. We used to cut class and play video games all day. Unfortunately, Ted's teacher sees him at the mall. The teacher calls Bob to break the news. To break the news means to tell someone some important information, and usually, it is bad news that will upset them. Listen to this situation. The doctor had to break the news to the patient about his illness. Or, I need to break the news to my boss that I am quitting. Another example, who is going to break the news to Susan about the burnt cookies? When Ted comes home, Bob is waiting for him at the door. Bob tells Ted, "Now you have to face the music." This phrase means to accept the negative consequences or punishment for your bad actions. You did something wrong, and now you must take the responsibility. For instance, you broke the window. Now go to the neighbor and face the music. Or in the news, he stole the money, and today he will face the music in court. And in our story, after cutting class, Ted finally had to face the music from his angry father. Bob's punishment for Ted is strict. Bob tells Ted, "No more video games. Go to your room and hit the books." To hit the books means to start studying very hard and intensely. Let's use it in a sentence. Final exams are next week, so I need to hit the books tonight. Or, if Ted wants to go to a good college, he must hit the books. Another way to say it, I can't go to the party. I have to hit the books for my medical test. So, Ted is finally studying in his room, and Bob is crunching the numbers. But what about their daughter, Nicole? Nicole has her own set of problems. She is trying to get a job, and she is feeling extremely stressed. Let's look at the emotional phrases native speakers use when life feels completely out of control. So, Nicole is trying to get a job to help the family. Today is her first big interview, and she is completely on edge. If someone is on edge, it means they are feeling very nervous, tense, or stressed. They cannot relax. For instance, you could say Nicole was on edge before her job interview. Listen to this situation. Waiting for the exam results kept me on edge all day. Or you might hear someone say, he has been on edge lately because of all the bad news. At the interview, Nicole meets the manager. The manager acts like a big shot. A big shot is a phrase we use for a person who is very important and powerful, or at least they think they are. Let's look at it in a sentence. The new director walks around the office like he is a big shot. Another example. After her movie became famous, she became a big shot in Hollywood. Or as a piece of advice, you don't need to be a big shot to be kind to people. Nicole wants to buy a new car to drive to her new job. She asks her father, Bob, but Bob says buying a car is out of the question. This phrase means something is completely impossible and will not be allowed. It is not even worth discussing. Listen to how we use it. Going on a holiday right now is out of the question. We have no money. Another common situation. A pay raise is out of the question this year. Or simply, we cannot buy a new TV. It is simply out of the question. Nicole gets the job, but there is a problem. Her new boss is very rude. Nicole has to put up with him. To put up with someone or something means to tolerate a difficult or annoying situation without complaining. For example, I cannot put up with this loud noise anymore. My head hurts. Or you could tell a friend. She puts up with her lazy roommate because they are childhood friends. Listen to this question. Why do you put up with such bad customer service? Even though the boss is rude, it is Nicole's first week. She needs to learn the ropes. Imagine a sailor on a ship learning how to use the ropes. This phrase means to learn the basics of a new job, task, or activity. Let's use it in a sentence. It took me a few weeks to learn the ropes at my new office. Another example, the senior manager is helping the new employees learn the ropes. Or to encourage someone, don't worry if you make mistakes. You are still learning the ropes. Meanwhile, back at the house, Susan's business is booming. She gets a massive order for 1,000 cookies. She cannot do it alone. The whole family must pitch in. To pitch in means to help out, join forces, and contribute to a task. For instance, if everyone pitches in, we can clean the entire house in 1 hour. Another situation, we all pitched in to buy a beautiful gift for our teacher. Listen to how we use it. The project was finished early because the whole team pitched in. To finish baking 1,000 cookies, the family has to pull an all-nighter. This is a very popular American phrase. It means to stay awake all night long to study or work. Let's look at it in a sentence. I had to pull an all-nighter to finish my science project. Or you might say, pulling an all-nighter makes you feel terrible and sleepy the next day. Another example, the engineers pulled an all-nighter to fix the broken website. By 3 a.m., Susan is completely exhausted. She wonders if she bit off more than she could chew. Imagine putting too much food in your mouth. This phrase means to take on more responsibilities or a bigger task than you can actually handle. Listen to this situation. By taking 3 jobs at once, he bit off more than he could chew. Another example. I think I bit off more than I can chew with this difficult painting. Or as a warning, start small. Don't bite off more than you can chew. But guess what? By morning, the cookies are ready. The family did it. Bob looks at Susan and says, "Way to go." This is a highly encouraging phrase used to tell someone they did a great job. It means well done or good job. For example, you finally passed your driving test. Way to go. Asterisk, or at work. That was an excellent presentation. Way to go, team. Listen to how we use it. Way to go. You finally learned how to ride a bicycle. The cookies are delivered. The customer is happy, and the family is completely tired. Bob yawns and says, "Let's call it a day." To call it a day means to decide to stop working on something for the rest of the day and just rest. Let's use it in a sentence. We have been studying English for 5 hours. Let's call it a day. Another common situation. It was getting dark, so the painters decided to call it a day. Or simply, my eyes are hurting from the computer screen. I need to call it a day. And we are going to stop right there for today. We have just learned 30 incredibly powerful native English phrases. The Johnson family has successfully baked 1,000 cookies, and their new business is officially booming. But wait, what happens when a massive multi-million-dollar corporation discovers Susan and tries to buy her secret cookie recipe? Will the family become millionaires, or will the corporate lawyers trick them? The negotiations are going to get very intense. In part 2 of this masterclass, I am going to teach you the final 20 advanced phrases that Native Americans use for business, arguing, and making huge life decisions. It is a game changer, and it is coming very soon. Before you go, here is your homework for today. Tell me down in the comments. Which of these 30 phrases was your absolute favorite? Write one real-life sentence using it, and I will read and heart your comments. If you loved this story-based learning, please hit the like button and subscribe to Talk Evolve right now so you get notified the second part 2 drops. Keep practicing, don't translate in your head, and I will see you in the next masterclass.